there's an opportunity with this particular office to make a difference in people's lives. One thing I want to do, I know in this part of the state, methamphetamine production has been a terrible scourge, and I hear that from law enforcement officers throughout the state. And we have a new law in the books that says you can't buy more than 9 grams of cold medicine in a 30-day period because it's being used to produce crystal meth. The problem is that the logs that are being kept by pharmacists many times are just handwritten logs, and our pharmacies aren't able online to talk to one another, to communicate from county to county about who's buying what. As I travel in eastern Kentucky, we have a terrible problem with prescription drug abuse. Now, we have an online system called Casper, but it's not being utilized in a way that's most effective for investigators and prosecutors to be able to see who's overprescribing and who's overutilizing prescription drugs. So I think there's an opportunity in that arena to work with investigators and prosecutors throughout the state to develop a comprehensive online tracking system to really help tackle this problem of drug abuse in the state, whether it's methamphetamine production in western and southern Kentucky or prescription drug abuse in the east. If I'm elected, I'm going to create an Internet Crimes and Fraud Division, because crime is being committed in new and different ways in the 21st century. As I move throughout the state, parents are telling me, young parents especially, are saying, Jack, it's so much tougher to parent in this day and age than it was for my parents, because we're working 2 jobs, my kids go off to school, they're being exposed to Lord knows what at school, and when I come home, my 7-year-old's more adept at using the computer than I am. And parents are literally terrified by the influences that are affecting their children over the internet. And there's a real opportunity for us as Democrats to come up with a parenting agenda that I think will be appealing to the next generation of voters. And we also have a lot of financial fraud, as you well know, being committed over the internet. We have phishing scams, we have consumer scams. And while a lot of those emails that look just like they're coming from Fifth Third Bank or Nations Bank are actually coming from the Cayman Islands or Russia or Lord knows where, there's an opportunity for me, working with other attorneys general throughout the country, to band together. Actually, the Attorney General's Association has a Best Practices Institute. This is an issue they're looking at to help lobby the Justice Department to do more in that area. Finally, as Attorney General, you have a solemn job to be a prosecutor. And a prosecutor, under our ethical canons for the Kentucky Bar Association, has a higher duty to see that justice is done. And with that responsibility, you have to exercise calm discretion. You have to be able to decide when to prosecute and when not to prosecute. And one thing I've heard repeatedly as I've traveled the state is that county attorneys and Commonwealth attorneys are very concerned about whether or not they'll have the resources to do their jobs. In Kentucky, we have what's called a unified budgeting process, and it's the responsibility of the Attorney General to submit the budgets of all the county and Commonwealth attorneys to the legislature in the biennial budgeting process. And I've taken a pledge that I will attend every meeting of the Prosecutors Advisory Council. I will work with the Commonwealth and County Attorneys Association to make certain that they feel like they have the resources they need to do their job on the front lines. So I'm really excited about about this office. You can do a lot with it. There's some policy aspects to this office that I think haven't been developed fully over the years. As many of you know, I spent 6 years as legal counsel to a governor and Deputy Secretary of the Cabinet. I was the guy that sat down and helped write the Post-Secondary Education Improvement Act of 1997. I've worked on safe schools legislation. I've worked on environmental legislation. I know many members of the legislature. I have excellent relationships over there, and I kind of want to take this office for a bit of a test drive. It comes with a bully pulpit, and I want, in the areas that are appropriate for an Attorney General to comment and to help develop policy, I want to do that in addition to being I think, a level-headed prosecutor. One last point I'd like to make. My likely opponent in the fall is a gentleman named Stan Lee, who is a state legislator from the Lexington area. Many of you are smiling because you're aware that he's a little bit right of Attila the Hun. He's not just conservative, he's radical. He's out of the mainstream. And I just described to you a little bit about the Office of the Attorney General. You're a prosecutor. You have the ability to convene grand juries. You have subpoena power. You also have the authority to issue opinions of the Attorney General and to advise policymakers and institutions in the Commonwealth what is the state of the law. Can you imagine giving those powers to that guy? I think it would be a travesty for the Commonwealth. So this is a very important job. I'm excited by it. I'm literally buoyed as I'm tired. In the old Robert Frost poem, "Miles to Go Before I Sleep," we were in Northern Kentucky last night. We're doing E-Town today, and then we're headed on down through through LaRue County and making all the way down to Pulaski County and back over to Cave City and back to Louisville, and then we're back in Eastern Kentucky and Pikeville for Eastern Kentucky Leadership tomorrow. And so we're doing 14, 15-hour days, much of it on the road, but it's been gratifying, and I'm loving every minute of it. And I think when the future of our beloved Commonwealth's at stake, it's pretty easy to work that hard.